I'm trying to look at the back. Where's Jared? So where's my contact person? Can he see me? Does he see this hand? Okay. There we go. Oh my gosh. This is different for me. Usually it's my husband standing doing these type of things. So I am excited. I'm excited, just as excited as you guys are about what God's going to do tonight. I'm thankful for Pastor Tracy asking me to come and speak, because it's an honor. I don't take it lightly. And so when I was thinking, okay, Lord, what do you want me to talk about? Because at the end of the day, there's things, what Pastor Tracy said is exactly what's been on my heart. It's time for women to rise up and take our positions in the kingdom and service to the kingdom. And so God's kind of showed me some things on how we get there, how we can be the best us and reflect him. So the theme of my message is power in our sails. We can't control the wind, but we can control our sails. What I'm going to be doing is drawing an analogy of the wind. The winds in our life are situations or people that challenge us. I know the pastor's been talking about that crazy aunt in your family for the last couple of Sundays. So we're going to be talking about how do we address the winds in our life? How do we deal with them? And I was looking up sailboat because I was like, okay, I understand that the wind can kind of maneuver the sailboat, but it all has to do with the sail and how you use the leech, the rigger, the mast rake dictates if the boat goes slow or fast or turns left and right. That's our sail. We all have sails. And the sail, for us, is an acronym. It's an acronym. This is an acronym for sail. Your self-image, your attitude, your imagination, and your language. We're going to do some self-reflection tonight, and we're going to look into ourselves and determine if we actually have power in ourselves based on these things. First, our self-image. How do we see ourselves? Do we see ourselves through our own lenses? Do we see ourselves through the lenses of others? Or do we see ourselves through God's eyes and lenses? How we see ourselves can either strengthen us or weaken us. Because when we look through our own eyes or the eyes of others, sometimes we have the propensity to find fault or condemnation. So we have to be careful. For example, when I was a kid, way 50 years ago, when I was a kid, I actually thought that I was ugly. My self-image of myself was I was ugly, I was too skinny, and I was too dark. That was my self-image of myself. My parents, looking through their eyes, I thought my parents probably thought I was the baddest kid on earth because I was very curious, nosy, some would say, where I was that kid that would take the family radio and take it apart because I wanted to see how it worked. My dad probably should have killed me one day when I decided I wanted to build a pool in our backyard. So I dug a huge hole with the help of my little sister in the backyard, laid some trash bags inside the hole we had dug. This is engineering stuff, y'all. Filled it up with water. You can imagine what that looked like, right? My father was not happy. So my perception, my family, looking through my family's eyes, I think they thought I was bad. Anybody have a kid like that? It's okay. They will grow out of it. It's okay. Talk her out of it. But I was also a tomboy. I liked to climb trees, and I would definitely beat up boys in my dress. Because I was a tomboy, and my mom always liked to put me in dresses, knowing I was going to climb trees. I didn't really get it, but that's what she did. So, but one thing is, in that, during my teenage years, looking through not my mom and dad's eyes, but the family dynamics, that would be my mom's parents and my aunts and my uncles. In my teenage years, the image was that my sisters and I, we were going to basically get pregnant and be on welfare. That was the impression. Because my mom, she was a teenage mom. She had my first sister when she was 16. She had married my dad and had me at 18, and 2 years later, she had my baby sister. So the family thought, when my parents got divorced when I was in 3rd grade, that we, being the seeds of my mom, were going to be pregnant and on welfare. Kudos to my mom. She did get pregnant early, but we were never on welfare. She always took good care of us. But the person in my life that showed me Jesus, so I could see the Jesus, was my grandmother. My grandmother would tell me that I was beautiful, that she loved me, and that was the place I felt safest, was with my grandmother. When I would go to her house, at night, we would pray. In the mornings, I would hear her early in the morning praying. So she was a prayer warrior. And she talked to me about God all the time. And at the time, I didn't understand all the fullness. But when she talked about him, she was excited. And she was like, baby girl, I just want you to know him, you know? And I didn't grasp all of that, even though I was baptized at the age of 8, because I did believe in God. But it was still in my 8-year-old knowledge of God. But my grandmother, who was a middle school math teacher, she was pretty much, if she was not working, she was at church or doing something in the community with her church. That was my grandmother. And it was funny because I said, man, when I would become an adult, I am not going to church all the time. Go figure. But through my grandmother's eyes, I was a perfect child. She was my God's eyes on earth. So that's why I say you have to be careful on whose eyes, because some of them are good and some of them are not. But the one that definitely will show you is God's eyes. When I was in my junior year of high school, my grandmother passed away. But I had the opportunity to talk to her before she passed, because she knew she was going to pass. I didn't understand why we were having the conversation that we were having, but she knew. And she said, baby girl, there is 2 things that Grandma wants you to have in life. She said, I want you to get an education and to have a relationship with God. Because once you have those things, no one can take them away from you. And that's been true. And that's when I started to look at myself different. After my grandmother passed and reflecting back on that conversation, it's like, wait, my grandmother wants me to have an education, and she wants me to have a relationship with Jesus Christ. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. So I started to study to find out, well, who God really is. So I started to read my Bible and found out, what does God say about me? Who does he say I am? And learning what the Bible and what God says about me, I found was the best lens to look through, because his word is true and it's accurate. When we can see through God's eyes, we see ourselves as his workmanship, right? His creation. We are created in his image. We are chosen. We are holy. We are blameless, without blemish or spots. That's us in God's eyes. What better way to see yourself, right? There is power in knowing who your daddy is and who your daddy says you are. Right? Looking through God's eyes, we can see ourselves as a beautiful reflection of him. Like the song we sung. I was like, Charity, we're flowing. Because we're created for good works in his image. So one way that we can have power in ourselves is to see ourselves through God's eyes. Don't get caught up on our own, oh, I'm this and I'm... No, see yourself through God's eyes. He didn't make no mistake in how he created us. The next way is our attitude. Our attitudes towards the wins, those challenging situations, those challenging people. Our attitude determines our outcome. Have you guys ever heard the saying, you can get more with honey than you can with bees? Or a soft response turns away wrath? Do you believe it? I believe it. But I had to learn. I had to learn it, and then I had to start living it. I realized that the closer I got to God, the more I learned that our attitudes is based on, our attitude in the right perspective is based on love and forgiveness as the foundation. I tell myself, once I grasp that love and forgiveness should be my disposition in my attitude, I tell myself, I don't work for free no more. Because for you guys, some of you that know me personally, I'm one of those people that when I see you, I want to hug you, I want to say hi. That's just me by nature. But when I'm mad, back in the day, I would be like, I am not talking to this person. I'm not doing it. You know, I was there. But when I realized that God says our foundation should be love and forgiveness, I had to change my behavior. I had to change my behavior. And I had to become aware of the fact that the way I was responding was not how God wanted me to respond, if I'm saying I'm representing him, right? Okay, so let me talk about my marriage. Okay. With the attitude. So I got married at 37. Mind you, I had a well-defined personality, and I say that. Listen. I didn't have a good grasp of how to say things. It might be right, but I had to learn how to say it. And so my husband, who comes from a family where everybody gets to talk one at a time, nobody talks over each other, and everybody has a right to speak. My family was, kids don't talk, shut up. We talk over each other, we talk loud. That was us. So I bring that into my marriage with a man that we're quiet and we have a conversation. And if you have to raise your voice, you don't have a point. My husband would literally tell me, are you done? And I would be like, no, I'm not done yet. That's funny now, but it was not funny going through it. Because God was dealing with me. I mean, my first year of marriage, I was like, oh, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. Because I just didn't know how to respond to my husband. I was not responding to my husband out of love and forgiveness. My idea of what I thought marriage was going to be, what Regina wants, Regina gets. Man. I said, I want some purple curtains. No, we're not getting purple curtains, my husband. I'm like, so I would be walking around with attitude because I wasn't getting my way. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But then God started to deal with me and say, you know what? Regina, you're selfish. And your attitude is bad. You need to straighten up. So I had to go do a lot of apologizing to my husband. And I used to ask God, are you telling Brian the same thing? Because it seems like I'm apologizing a lot. But God challenged me. He said, okay, Regina, do you want to win the argument, or do you want to win your husband in your marriage? I was like, wow, I want to win my husband in my marriage. So I had to straighten up. So a part of having the right attitude and power in ourselves is also accepting correction. We have to have a teachable spirit because we're not perfect. It was a situation that happened when we lived in Puerto Rico for 7 years. And we got there and we just connected with this couple that we allowed to be accountability partners in our life. And they would do real talk with Brian and I, right? Because it was our first year of marriage. We got married, and then we moved to Puerto Rico where we had no family support or anything. And so we were out at a function or something, and I really don't even remember what I said, but my friend, she came to me and she said, Regina, look at your husband. I was like, what? Look at my husband. So I look over, and he's literally sitting in a chair in a corner like he'd lost his best friend. And I was like, oh. She was like, you said something to him. And like I said, I don't remember exactly what my words were, but she said, you disrespected him. And I was like, wow. It wasn't my intention to, but if it wasn't for her coming and saying, Regina, that's the issue, you have to check that. And then I talked to my husband afterwards, and I said, babe, I said, you have to let me know. You're the Lord of this house. You have to let me know when I'm out of line. You have to. I said, I don't know what I don't know, but you have to help me in this. So when you see me or I say something to you that you feel is disrespectful, shut it down. And he does. He's like, babe. And I'm like, okay, I got it. But again, we have to work on our attitudes. And going back to getting like more with honey than you can with bees, when I was in Puerto Rico, I had an enforcement group. I was a brand new supervisor because that was my first promotion within DEA. And I had this enforcement group. I had one female and all men agents that I was in my group. And they wanted to do this operation. And I'm looking at the ops plan. I'm like, this is not a safe ops plan, really. I was like, we got to come up with a better way. So I talked to the guys and I said, hey, the way you guys want to do this op, I don't think it's the best course of action. I think you should go back and try to do something different because I'm not going to approve it with us doing this. So the day that they decided to do the op, I'm off of work. So I had my backup was running the operation. And when I get back, I realized they did the op the way I told them not to. I was livid. And I was like, I told my husband, I said, when I go to work tomorrow, they're going to get it, I'm going to give it to them. And my husband, he said, babe, I don't think you should do that. I said, but I'm disappointed in them. I said, something could have happened. And he was like, well, tell them that. You don't have to raise your voice. You don't have to do anything. Just tell them that you're disappointed in them. And I was like, okay, he a man. You know how to communicate with men? Okay, let me try that. So I go in the next day. I call my group in, and I sit down at the table, and I said, guys, I heard you did the ops plan the way I basically advised you not to. I said, I thank God that nothing happened and everybody went home safe. But I said, but my job is to make sure everyone goes home every night. And if I'm saying something, I don't feel comfortable with something because I don't think it's safe, I'm telling you because I don't want to have to be the one to go to your house and tell your family that your mom or your dad are not coming home tonight. I said, that's the reason I wanted you guys to redo the op in a better way. And like I say, I thank God that nothing happened, but what if something would have? I said, I'm so disappointed in you guys because you basically disregarded what I advised you to do. And I got up and left. That was it. If I tell you, that was some nice honey, because throughout the day, the guys, people in my office, boss lady, you all right? I'm good. I forgive y'all. It's all love. But they were more affected by the fact that I said I was disappointed, and I expressed the reason. I want you guys to go home every night. So it let them know that I also cared about them. So, again, our attitudes, we have to have an attitude that's grounded in love and forgiveness and have a spirit of correction. Yep. And then, once we get that in hand, we can. Then we have to start looking at our imagination. What are we believing for? What are we believing for? one of the things for me, I stand here today, but people see today. They don't see the journey. When I was in 3rd grade, I couldn't read. I was reading maybe on a 1st grade level. I knew it, but my parents didn't know it. And when my parents got divorced and my mom took us to another school, I will forever thank God for the teacher that he put in my life, who basically told my parents that I couldn't read. And then the decision had to be made of if they were going to hold me back in 3rd grade. And I was so crying. I was like, no, don't hold me back. I said, I can do this. I can graduate. I can learn to read. I can do what I need to do. Just don't hold me back, right? And my teacher was like, I think she can, because one thing she has is she has a remarkable memory. Because what I was doing at this particular school, they had like spelling tests that had like a whole list of A words. At my previous school, it would be like mixed up, starting the letters that words would start with. So I would basically memorize the letters, and based on when the teacher would call the word, I would be like, she said apple, maybe it's these letters. And I would write it down, the word that I thought was the word, because I couldn't read it. And she said she'd have the word spelled correctly, but on the wrong lines, right? So that, in my imagination at that time, was, I'm going to pass 3rd grade. Don't hold me back. So my mom let me continue on. And then I actually learned. I can read now, you guys. But I had to take the special classes, and I had the teasing with people. Oh, you're so dumb, you can't read, blah, 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 whatever. Because I don't know where these people are now. But when my grandmother passes away, and I'm in high school, and she wants me to get an education. And so at that point, I knew I wanted to go to college, but that like solidified it. I'm going to college. And so my freshman and sophomore year, I didn't take the SATs or the ACTs, none of that. So I had to go through and try to take those tests. And every time I take it, never would get a good score. But I was doing very good in my high school, and so I graduated in the top 10% of my high school with a 3.5 grade point average. And I was doing stuff in the community, so my resume to get into college was good. So I applied, and I get my letter back in the mail, and my letter says, provisional admission. Not full admission, provisional admission. That means if I do good, I stay. If I don't do good, they kick me out. And if I didn't have the dream or the imagination or believing that I'm going to get a degree, that letter could have stopped me. It could have said, no, they already tell me I'm not going to make it. No, you open the door for me, I'm going to walk right on in. And I did. And I graduated from college. And I graduated in 3 years, because once I started, I didn't want to stop. and I was like, well, I should say I graduated in 3 years. I finished all my core classes. So my last year, I was in college just taking volleyball and art. But like I say, I didn't let that letter stop me. I kept focused on my dream. And then when I graduated, I have a criminal justice degree. Actually, I was pre-law criminal justice, because I didn't really know how I say. I always knew I wanted to be in law enforcement, but I didn't know if I wanted to be on the legal side as a lawyer or actually enforcing law enforcement. And so when I applied for the DEA Academy, I was actually at the police academy first. I was a Dallas police officer, because I was like, let me get some experience. So preparing myself for what I'm dreaming, which is to become a federal agent. And I took a year-long process of getting hired. And when they finally called me for my class, I was like, yes, I'm going to be an agent. Yeah. I was excited. I was very excited. I was like, I'm gonna be a federal agent. This is cool. And in my family, there was no law enforcement other than my uncle, who was a local police officer. So it was it was rare in our family. And along with that, my father was addicted to drugs. But I said, I'm putting all these bad guys in jail that's putting these drugs on the street. So I go to the academy, and I get a rude awakening that I have 2 strikes against me with some of the people that are there. The 2 strikes are, I'm a woman, and I'm black. And it was clear that some people did not want me there. I mean, some of the stuff, y'all have to read the book. But I mean, it was grueling. The academy itself was not hard. It was the winds that were hard. It was the winds that were hard. So much so when the night before I was getting ready to graduate, my family came down for my graduation, and I was in a hotel room with my mom and my sisters, and we were, my mom was like, well, Regina, what's wrong with you? I was like, I don't know. I said, I don't think I want to do this. She was like, what do you mean? I said, I don't think I want to go through with this because these people don't want me here. They made it clear they don't want me here. What solidified to me and was making me have second thoughts, they do evaluations that they send to the office that you're going to go to. Mind you, I had not received any negative evaluations through the whole academy until I got that last one. And they wrote some stuff in there. I was like, when I get to Los Angeles, which was my first assignment, my supervisor's going to be like, so why did she graduate if she was this bad? That was how they handicapped me. And I was just like, I said, I don't want to do this. Mm-mm. And my mom said, and I said, this is what I'm going to do. In my 20s, I was crazy, y'all. I told my mom, I said, tomorrow, I'm going to go to the graduation. And I'm going to let them give me my badge. And I'm going to throw it back at them and say, you know what? You guys don't deserve me. My mom looked at me. She said, okay, that'll be dramatic, but I thought this is what you wanted to do. And I said, I do. But they made it clear that they don't want me here. And she said, there are going to be a lot of places that don't want you. That don't mean you don't kick that door in and walk right through. And so that rejuvenated my imagination. And she said, you show them what type of agent you are. You show them that you can be a good agent. If I tell you, I've been running and gunning ever since. So don't let the winds stop you from imagining all that God has for you. Because God don't have limits. God did not put any limits on us. He said we only need just a little faith, mustard seed. That's the smallest seed on the earth. We only need that much faith, and he'll do the rest, right? He says nothing is impossible with him. Nothing. So we have to dream big and take the limits off of God, because he is not putting limits on us. So don't put them on him. So dream big. And when you start dreaming, then you have to start speaking. Our language, what we speak over ourselves. What we speak over ourselves determine if we actually have power in ourselves. It does. For me, I always, in my heart and in my head, I believe God. I believe what God says about me. I said, I believe those in my heart and in my head, my heart. But it's something about speaking life over yourself that is powerful. This little tongue is death and life in that tongue. The scripture for with the heart one believes and is justified. That was me. I was believing and I was justified. And with the mouth one confesses and is saved. That's the part that I wasn't doing. I wasn't doing that. I was believing, and in my head I would, declare stuff in my head, but I wouldn't speak it. But today I stand here as the Assistant Special Agent in charge for the Drug Enforcement Administration. I am the highest ranking DEA official, and I run the whole state of Kansas. But I say that because I want to be vulnerable with you. Because I I was not verbally speaking life over myself. I started to get depression. Life is going good. I have my dream job, my husband, marriage is great, family's great, but I'm getting hit with depression so hard. I mean, the enemy was trying to take me out. And I'm like, what is this? And I'm in my head. In my mind, I'm saying, well, no weapon formed against me will be, but I'm saying it in my head, not out loud. And I was just talking, and I'm in my office, and I said, Lord, what is this? This is not, I've never felt this type of depression before. What is this? And God put, where's Milagro? God put Milagro on my mind. He says, text her. Tell her to pray for you. So I did. I texted her. And I said, Milagro, I don't know what's going on, but I feel so depressed right now. I feel like this is not good. Where I am right now is not good. I need some help. Pray for me. And she started texting me. Regina, it's okay. She was texting so fast. I was like, whoa. She was texting. But one thing she did, she texted me this document. And it had a list of prayers, and it talked about verbalizing those prayers over yourself, declaring those prayers and stuff. And I could feel as I was reading the document, as I'm reading her messages and our conversations back and forth over text, that it was coming. So I started to speak. I was like, again, not just in my heart. Now I'm saying, no weapon against me will ever be able to prosper. I am the head and I'm not the tail. I'm victorious. I'm more than a conqueror. I just started saying that in my office, right? Depression gone. Depression gone. It's something about when we open our mouths and declare things that breaks off strongholds. Like I said, I believed it in my heart, but the power came when I started to verbalize it. When I started to verbalize it and speak it and declare it and believe it. And you know what happened to the enemy? He got to get out. Because there's no space for him if I'm not accepting his lie. There's no space. So I wasn't giving him my power and my cell, right? So, again, we cannot control our winds, but we can control our sails. We can control our self-image, which is how we see ourselves, which it should be how God sees us. Our attitudes, having one that's grounded on foundation of love and forgiveness and having a spirit of correction. And imagining, dream big. Don't have limits on God. Don't have limits on God. And then the language, declare what you want. Declare who you are. Declare who Jesus says you are and we are. And when we understand the power in ourselves, let's say it together. Let's say it, let's declare it. Amen? Amen. So my prayer is that we all use the power in ourselves so that we can be propelled. We maneuver through the winds, right? In Jesus' name. Thank you, guys.
Come on, let's give her a good hand clap.